What's up? What's happening? Welcome here to Lacrosse Now. That is Tom Eschen. I'm Travis Seldridge. We're going to get you ready for the U21 World Championships from Ireland. You can see a bunch of games on Lax Sports Network throughout the next week and a half. Tom's going to be calling a ton of them.
I am. I'm really excited about this. Like, teams all over the world. It's been really interesting as we dig into the different cultures and players that we're going to be talking about in the next couple of weeks, especially on LSN. Just where lacrosse is in different places in the world, how some of these players made those connections to the sport themselves through some of these governing bodies. And like, yeah, we had soccer and basketball, but lacrosse was something different, and that's where some of these stories come along, and you can really actually see on the international stage how the game is growing. It's really neat.
Yeah, so we've got plenty of people to talk to about that. We've got Brandon Aviles and Colin Baez, who are a couple of players for Puerto Rico. Aviles, you may know as a player for Syracuse. Baez, a face-off man at Jacksonville. They join us, as does Tom Pryor, the head coach for Ireland. And we're going to talk a little bit about the World Championship experience with Michael Sowers, now of the Water Dogs, because he was part of that Team USA team that won gold the last time we had this event 6 years ago.
Right, yeah. And that feels like it's a long time ago. And a lot of these guys have gone on to college careers and pro careers as well. And Bernhardt was the MVP of that tournament back in the day. Jake, right?
No, Jared.
Jared, yes.
Jared Bernhardt.
Sorry, Jared Bernhardt.
Yeah.
I know one of them was, and that was a while ago. So, really cool to get his perspective on what some of these athletes can be going through over the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, he was just going to be a senior in high school when that tournament happened, and now he's playing professional lacrosse after an illustrious career.
6 years.
A lot has happened.
A lot has happened.
That tournament.
It's been postponed a couple times and all that. I think everyone's really excited and out there in Limerick as we speak.
Yeah, for sure. So we'll get you ready for all that. But we're going to start with the PLL as we before we talk with Michael Sowers about both the PLL and the World Championship experience. They were in Denver, Colorado this past weekend. Great crowd. I mean, Peter Barton Stadium is one of the best venues we see in college lacrosse. It was a great venue for the professional game. I mean, I want to talk about the Water Dogs game in a second because I think that was the best game of the day. But what's your takeaway from this week in Denver?
Well, Travis, it's the Archers. Once again, it just feels like, and we talk about this, it feels like it's the Dallas Cowboys, and you have something to talk about with the Cowboys. It feels like on sports radio and sports TV all the time. For us, I think it's the Archers just because it's so frustrating to watch because, best offense in the league. You look on paper, they're great. But we said it, what are you going to do against a good defense, against the Whip Snakes? And I know they scored 11 goals. They lost 13-11, I think it was. But those, once again, and Travis has talked about this sort of rubric. It's like, oh, guys, it's second half, time to pick it up because there was nothing doing for most of that game until Marcus Holman scored a late goal, and that game was not nearly as close as the score was. And like I've said, beginning of the year, if you can't figure it out, something's got to change at this point if you're the Archers. And I know they're in fine position. I guess they're in the playoffs right now. They're, 4-4?
Just got to finish in the top 7 to make the playoffs 18
true. But at this point, for this team, your expectations are high, and they should be higher. And just making the playoffs or finishing at 500 or a bit below or above 500 isn't the recipe for success, isn't what you need. And that's falling short of what we believe this team should be, this offense should be. If they're losing like 19-18, I'm like, all right, well, maybe you got to figure some things out at the defensive end. And you can I almost give them a pass at that point. At least their offense is what we know it's doing what it's supposed to. But they're not. They're losing 13-11, 10-9 in these low-scoring games. It just confuses me. And it's been frustrating and has been since day one. So something's got to change. I'm sorry. What's insanity? The definition, doing the same thing and expect a different result?
Yeah.
That's what it's been.
And I have a hard time with this because, the guys on this team, and it's not like I don't think a sense of urgency is a problem because, I think they're all ready, they're all there and ready to play.
Yeah.
So
no question about that. Effort or anything.
Yeah,
I don't think at all. No.
Which is, I think, the most head-scratching thing about all of this is I don't think they're a bunch of guys that are getting there and the effort's not there at the beginning, and then all of a sudden they go, oh, we got to turn it on. It's for whatever reason, it just doesn't work from the very beginning, and they haven't put 60 minutes together against a good team yet.
No, exactly. Yeah.
And so
Which makes them not a good team.
Right. Well, which makes me think, how important are these next 2 weeks for them? Because you've got to, at some point, I think, in the regular season. Now, I guess, you could see the Chaos did last year. They get in barely, and then they put it all together in the playoffs. So that could happen because the Archers have the players and the talent on this roster, I think, to make it happen. But I feel like you've got to do it at least once in these next 2 weeks to feel like, I mean, at least for me as an outsider, to feel like, okay, I feel good about thinking this team could make a run.
Yeah, it's just they don't. You're right. Nothing feels good about them right now. There's other teams that are peaking. It feels like at the right time. Water Dogs are playing unbelievably
5 in a row.
well. Whipsnake's doing their thing, and the Atlas. You look at what they've done, balance all season long. It's like, okay, yeah, those teams really they got a chance. Archers just like they try treading water, trying to survive.
You know what it is? Like the Whipsnakes Archers matchup, I think is just like the perfect. Like, they're like polar opposites of each other in terms of, like, how they do it. Like, the Archers, when they win, I feel like they win pretty. It looks gorgeous. Whipsnakes, when they win, rarely does it ever look pretty, but they just win. Like, all these 1- and 2-goal games that the Archers have been losing, the Whipsnakes always find a way to win those games.
Yeah.
And that's why they have won the championship in 2 of the 3 years we've had in this league's history.
That's
why.
Yeah, they've been winners when it counts the most. They have the guys that can get it done when they need it to the most. So, interestingly enough, Archers take on Chaos. This week. And for Chaos, that's a big game. Archers are in the playoffs right now. They've clinched a playoff spot.
They're in.
It's Redwoods, Chaos, Cannons, 3 teams for 2 spots heading into the final 2 weeks of the regular season for these top 7 of 8 teams that are going to play. So right now, Cannons obviously the odd team on the outside looking in, but this is a big game. Chaos very motivated against an Archers team that seems to still be trying to figure things out.
Yeah, it's a huge game. And, you know, like the Chaos, to me, maybe the most disappointing team here in the last couple of weeks, just because I felt like they got everybody back and the expectation was, okay, they've got this, and they've put no distance between themselves and the Cannons. Like, they've done themselves no favors. They've made these last 2 weeks nail biters for this team, and maybe that's the way they want it. But the Cannons, despite the fact they've 1 win all year, still have a way in, which is mind-boggling.
I mean,
because they just haven't. They have been the least consistent team in the whole league.
Chaos have Archers, then Atlas. Cannons have Chrome, and then Whipsnakes. It might be just a battle of attrition there for those 2 teams.
Cannons got to win 1. If you win 1, maybe you got to set yourself
win
a
1,
shot.
maybe you get lucky.
Yeah. So the other.
Now Whipsnakes have already clinched the bye, like everything. So maybe resting guy. Who knows?
True.
I mean,
they could bring some different guys.
They could bring some different guys out of the pool to try and give them a test. And you get later in the summer, some guys are banged up. So I mean, it could line up for the Cannons. You never know.
The one thing I will say, the Whipsnakes, if you have a bye in the quarterfinals, you're going to have 2 weeks off because there's a bye week at the end of the regular season for everybody before then the quarterfinals in Boston at Gillette Stadium or in Foxborough at Gillette Stadium. So if you're the Whipsnakes, you probably don't want to rest people just because, like, you're going to have not only 1 week, you're going to have 2 weeks away. So that's kind of throws a wrench into things.
Health, though, too.
True. Yeah.
I mean,
if their guys beat up, sure, give them a rest.
Yeah. I think that'll have to be. You're right. Depending on where they are health-wise, we'll see what they do the last couple weeks and how that impacts the playoffs here. Redwoods 3-5. Don't forget as well.
Yeah.
They're in a better position. They have Water Dogs and Chrome, hot Water Dogs team and a pretty solid Chrome team too, and down the final stretch there.
Before we get to that Water Dogs and Atlas game, I do want to mention that Redwoods Cannons game from Friday. It was the ESPN game this week in Denver. Rob Pennell pulling himself into top 4 in pro outdoor lacrosse history in points, passing Casey Powell on that list. So credit to Rob Pennell. He's done it pretty consistently throughout his career. Well-deserved for him to continue to move up that all-time list. Is there a team that drums up more social media excitement and has less to show for it in their record than the Redwoods?
Wow.
I'm sorry, but I'm seeing posts galore. I didn't have a chance to watch live on Friday night, and so I'm seeing posts galore from this game. Every highlight, it's wild. People are talking about it, and deservedly so. They got some great players. But you're right. They're one of 3 teams that find themselves still trying to fight for one of 7 playoff spots.
And it has felt like it's a very ironic take you have there, because it does feel like over the course of the iteration of the PLL, you're rewarded for social media more so than anything else.
Yeah.
Maybe with playing time, maybe with something else. I don't know, with getting benefit of the doubt here and there in one way or another. But when it comes to the scoreboard, that's out the window. That's at least where we can say it's all in between the lines at the end of the day. And as many posts, as many cool highlights as you have, if you don't win the game, you're not going to the dance. So that only goes so far is what I'm trying to say.
No, you're right.
You know?
I just think people got
People
got really excited about the Redwoods, and they had some highlights galore, but like they beat a Cannons team that's been not good, 15-12. Like, I don't think there's that much to get excited about. If they win the next couple of weeks, then I'll start to feel better about the Redwoods. I think they are a very talented team. It just hasn't all worked together.
Oh, they're not. I mean, they're in the Archers conversation.
Yes.
They're
super talented.
3 of the tiers in the league, right? I mean, they might win a game late in the season against someone good, but they're not going to be able to sustain a run in the playoffs to be able to get to the promised land.
But this is the same thing with the Archers. You think about, like, if someone were to tell you, like, in the offseason that you're going to have a team that has Sergio Perkovic and Miles Jones in the midfield, you got Ryder Garnsey and Matt Cavanaugh and Rob Pennell at the attack, and the defense that you have in this team and Tim Troutner at goal, I mean, on paper you go, this team should be one of the best teams in the league. Up there with the Atlas, like same thing. Like you're comparing rosters on paper, you go, wow, they're really good, and it just hasn't been that way.
I mean, I don't know. I don't think this is the best Redwoods defense.
No,
I think
agree.
those first couple years, their defense is what were better. I think that's a part of it. And all the guys you named, I don't know if there's much consistency there anymore. You know, even with guys that have been real, Miles Jones had a great year last year, not as big this year. Sergio Perkovic blew up last year, and obviously not as good this year. And Rob Pennell at this stage of his career, also a bit more streaky than he has. He's been so consistent over the course of his career, year by year, but at the course of making a difference in game by game, it's not what it used to be, where he's going to go out there and give you 9 points, something ridiculous like that. And Garnsey has always been that way. So I don't know if there's consistency there. So they might all come together for a great game, but the next game, I don't think they're doing it.
Yeah, no, that's what it's been.
Yeah. Archers, same thing.
Yeah.
Same story. With much more consistent guys, though, which is weird, right?
Yeah, they've got more guys who've been more consistent. They just haven't gotten the results.
Well, that means there's other things that need to happen there for the Archers.
All right, Tom. Anyway.
Let's talk about those Water Dogs.
Yeah, I want to talk about, before we get to Michael Sowers, the Water Dogs Atlas game was one of the best games I think I've seen in the PLL's history in terms of entertainment value.
Okay.
Like, back and forth. Teams, like, there weren't big runs. It was like trading blows all the way through. And then you've got like this storyboard ending because a University of Denver guy scores the game winner in overtime, and Jack Hanna. Like, to me, it was just awesome.
It was the best the league has to offer, right? Like, that is the guys playing at a high level, because there's been 1-goal games in the past that can be ugly at the same time. And you're like, that wasn't the best thing I've ever seen. But here, in this case, you got a couple teams with some younger cores and some younger guys that right now are in their prime, and that's where you see a lot of the talent now coming in this league, and where this league, and we talked about it before, has gone. It's a very young man's league at this point. And then you see this game with the Water Dogs and the Atlas, and this is why. So the Water Dogs, a fun victory for them for sure. I don't think this is going to set the Atlas back too far at the end of the day, but it feels like that this is the league at its best right now. It's these young, exciting players who are really taking advantage of this moment. It's really neat to see the new blood into this new league, right? Because the league was started more or less by a bunch of veterans. You know what I mean? It was a veterans league more so than anything else. And then now you got these guys that are like, okay, this is the thing now that I have to go to. I'm going to go do this, and here's what I got. You get that kind of the fresh perspective of nothing of the past. Like, MLL is a few years in the back burner here. So some of these young guys, this is all they know, which I think is really interesting and really cool. Yeah, and then you got some veteran guys like an Eric Law that are continuing to contribute, and that game was awesome. Yeah. By the way, I misspoke. Jack Kelly has been the goalie for the Redwoods here as of late. So just a little that's
quick
true.
tip in
Yes,
there.
yep,
My mistake. Jack Kelly has been, I think, good, and I like him being in goal, and he's been a backbone of that Redwoods defense, but they haven't been consistent.
They haven't had a guy that's been consistent in goal. They've had Tim Troutner and Jack Kelly back there, so there's another testament to the inconsistency.
The Water Dogs have been consistent. They've won 5 in a row now, thanks to the overtime win this week, and Michael Sowers is continuing to find a way to contribute consistently. I had a chance to catch up with him earlier today. So we've got Michael Sowers from the Water Dogs joining us now. We're going to get to some Team USA stuff because he was part of that U19 team back in 2016 for the U.S. that won gold. But I want to start with your Water Dogs here, Michael. 5 in a row. What's clicked for this team?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, Travis, appreciate you having me on. I think for us, as a group, like we just enjoy being around each other. I think we have great chemistry on and off the field, and I think that that directly translates, especially when you're only together on the weekend, to kind of have that bond when you show up, and it's just a really unselfish group and a great locker room. So I think that that's kind of the foundation of the whole thing.
This is your second year in the PLL. For you, really the first full season that you've had a chance to play. What's the adjustment been like?
I mean, I think that on that same note, just getting chemistry with the guys and figuring out each other's play style. And I think that like in college, naturally you have all off season and then practices in between the week to do that. And the PLL is a little unique in the sense that like you have Friday practice together and then the Saturday game to do that. So I think that that's been one of the biggest adjustments. But like I said, we're lucky that we have such a great unselfish locker room and a lot of great vets, guys like Kieran McCardle and Ryan Brown that I kind of just have to follow their lead and everything else kind of falls into place.
How frustrating was the injury at the beginning of last season, knowing like you're coming off a good season at Duke where you guys go to the Final Four and then like you feel like you probably like are ready to rock and roll in the pro game and then boom, you're knocked out the rest of the way?
Yeah, I mean it definitely sucked. It was tough. It was pretty unique too, just in the sense that like I never missed time really in any sport up until that point, like fortunate enough at Princeton and Duke to, play in every single game. And so that was like a unique time for me and like a new learning experience. But, I definitely think that I came out of the other side with like a different appreciation for the game. So, yeah, I think it was definitely difficult, but like I said, great learning experience.
What have you learned about what you have to do individually now as a professional lacrosse player to make sure that you're ready in the weekends? Because like everybody you talk to, that's the biggest adjustment from year one to year two is like, hey, I didn't have a college season and a college off season in order to get myself in shape. Like it's all on me. What have you learned about making sure that you're ready to go come game time?
Yeah, I think that, like for me personally, I've always been somebody like I love to shoot. I love to be out on the field. Sometimes like to my own detriment, like where you sacrifice like, extra shots for like your health in some respects. And I think that that's been kind of the toughest part of it is like naturally you have athletic trainers and team PTs and physicians that like kind of guide you through rehab processes and you have stretch time and prehab built into your daily routine. And for me, like I never enjoyed doing that stuff. So I think that that's kind of been the most difficult adjustment is like having to do that stuff on my own. Shooting's no problem, but I've always hated the stretch. So that's been a tough adjustment to do that on my own.
Yeah, it's mature of you to realize that, though, because there's some guys that wouldn't realize that, and you're like, yeah, I'm just going to shoot. I'm still in my early 20s, whatever. But that's mature. That's a good step for you.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say that I'm doing it all the time. So I still have a little maturing to go, but definitely focused on it more than I did when I was a freshman at Princeton.
This game this past weekend, like where does that rank of games you've been a part of? Because it was back and forth. It felt like it had it all. And then you guys have a Denver guy who ends up scoring the game winner. Like rank that one.
Yeah, I mean, it was just like, it was really cool all around. I think obviously fired up for Jack. He deserved that in front of the hometown and playing at Denver. But I think also too, like we have a ton of Outlaws guys, like in Courier and Mikey Slaughter and Dylan Ward and Eli. And, I think that those guys, like, they played in Denver for a bunch of years. And I think for those guys, it was pretty special too, to be back in front of a lot of the fans that were at those Outlaws games. So I was just really excited for those guys, pumped for Jack. And obviously the game was just a ton of fun to play in, just back and forth the whole time. You had both teams kind of gaining momentum at points, so it was a blast.
With your game in the pro game, like how have you figured out how you can pick and choose your spots and how you've adapted your game to like how it fits with the Water Dog system? Yeah,
I mean, I think that like one of I don't know if you want to call it a challenge, but, you're playing alongside like so many great players. And in college, it's similar, but pro even more so, where, you kind of have to like redefine like what's a good shot and what's an acceptable risk. And I think for me, like one place that I've tried to grow is just like, redefining that and trying to be as efficient as possible. So, if I can get inside 5 yards and, feel comfortable with my shot, like for me, that's a great shot. And if not, you kick it forward and you kick it one more and you have Connor Kelly or Mikey Slaughter with a 3-step dodge against, an approaching D mid. So I think that, for me, that's kind of been an area of my game that I've tried to redefine, but, kind of like you hit on, just picking your spots and, quick hitting, one hard move, go. And if it's not there, just kick the ball forward.
Yeah, I mean, look, you play with some great guys at Princeton and Duke, but it's not the lineup that you guys have with the Water Dogs. There
Right.
are options.
No doubt. No doubt. I mean, I think it's similar to like playing in like a Team USA atmosphere, where like it's very like, I'll take my turn and if it's not there, I'll bang it forward and, the next guy will go.
So you hit on Team USA, and you obviously were part of the last time we had this World Championship event. For you, it was U19. It's now U21. But the pressure's still there for Team USA, and you guys played one of the most absurd championship games I think I still have ever seen in that gold medal game when you came back and beat Canada at the last moment. I want to start with the last goal. What do you remember? Because I think you were on the field. What do you remember from the game winner from Conrad that as time essentially just ran off the clock?
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty wild. I mean, even to like be at that point, like we had come back. And I think like one of the unique things about that team, like I was a senior in high school at the time, so I had never played in a game even close to that magnitude. And I remember being down like 7-1, 8-1 at halftime, and like there was no panic. Like it was almost like bizarre for me to be standing there and like everybody was so like cool and collected. And I think that was just like reassuring. So I don't want to say like when we got to that point, like I knew we were going to win because like obviously it was such a back and forth game, but like I think that there was just like a certain poise about that locker room that like was really unique. And as a result, like it just kind of gave you this confidence that like, no, even though we were down, like we were going to win.
Well, what was the experience like? Because you mentioned for you, like that's like really your big first taste of what essentially college lacrosse is probably going to feel like. What was the experience like?
It was really cool, and I think that would kind of prepared me for my college career because like for the first time, high school lacrosse is like you just show up to the practice field at 3:30. Like nobody tells you what you have to wear. Like you just had to be on the field and stretching by, 3:30 right after school. That was the first time where it's like, your breakfast at 8 a.m. Everybody wears the same thing to breakfast. Like your meetings at 9:45 and then your walkthrough at 11 and you're practicing in the afternoon and then you're playing at night and then you're watching film. Like it was like a full, like you felt like a professional athlete. And really for the first time, like I said, like lacrosse was always just like show up and play. And I think that like for me personally, that it really like showed like the best like how they handle their day to day. And I think that on top of that, like the bigger picture, obviously anytime you have the opportunity to wear USA across your chest, it's a pretty unique and cool experience, and definitely like cliche, but putting the jersey on, it's definitely kind of like a feeling like no other.
Yeah, and I think with that, too, especially at this event, there's some pressure because you guys continue the tradition, having Team USA having never lost a world championship at that U19, now U21 event. What is that pressure like? I mean, you said there was a calmness in the locker room, but at some point you probably have to feel it like, hey, if we don't win gold, there's like a disappointment here.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's definitely real, but at the same time, like, I think that there was always this feeling like amongst the team that like we were really like competing against ourselves. Like we knew we had the talent to go and do what we were there to do. But at the same time, it was like chasing like this best version of ourselves. And I think that like constant like chase after that like you kind of forget about the pressure, and like it kind of like elevates you to like work towards a certain goal. And so I think that, you know, with that kind of focus in mind, and Coach Myers and the staff did such an awesome job of like keeping our minds focused on that like our best game was still ahead of us. And like, you know, our best game probably came in the second half of the gold medal. Our worst game was probably the first half of that gold medal, but you know, it clicked at the right time, and, you know, thankfully not too late, but, you know, it clicked in the second half of that gold medal game.
I mean, it was pretty remarkable to watch what all those guys from your team of that U.S. squad did for all of you throughout your college careers. What's the bond like with those guys, having shared that experience? I mean, you have a chance to play with Ryan Conrad now in the pro game. Like, what's the bond been like since that moment?
I think it's just like really cool. Like even now, you know, like obviously me and Conrad and, you know, all the guys on the team have like a different bond when we see each other, just like knowing that we had gone through that. You know, like it certainly wasn't easy, you know, like you had 6 kind of grueling training camps to get to that moment. And then, you know, the toughest part was once we got out to British Columbia and you're in the thick of things and, you know, you're losing 7-1 in a gold medal game. So I think just like through some of that adversity, like we had like a really tight knit group that, you know, still kind of resonates today.
So I know you got some, so at least one Princeton guy on this current roster who's over in Ireland getting ready to play this week. What would your advice to guys like Alex Slusher and the rest of this U.S. team be as they get ready to go after this challenge?
I mean, I think it's cliche, but like you really just have to enjoy it. And like, I think that it's such a unique experience. That, you know, and you can easily get kind of lost in like, you know, USA has never lost and whatever. But I think that like, you know, when you just like, for me personally, it was really just like doing my job, like playing my role, which, you know, was to dodge hard from behind. And, you know, like we talked about, if it's not there, kick the ball forward, but not force anything, hit singles and be a part of like something much bigger than myself. And on top of that, it was like doing all the little things like riding and picking up tough ground balls, like anything that like would marginally help us. Like that is kind of the role that I think all of us assumed. And so, you know, all these guys come in with, you know, unbelievable credentials and like great college careers thus far. But I think that the unique thing about USA is you have all these guys that kind of like make sacrifices and are very selfless and, you know, commit to something much bigger. So I think that, you know, just doing that. And then on top of that, like I said, just enjoying it, enjoy being in Ireland and playing lacrosse. Like that's pretty cool.
Yeah, there could be far worse things to be doing here in August than doing that and representing Team USA. It's going to be fun to watch them compete. Michael, it was fun to watch you guys this past weekend with the Water Dogs. Heck of a game. Good luck here as you head back out to Salt Lake City this weekend, all right?
Yeah, thanks so much, Travis. Appreciate it.
So speaking of the World Championships, the U21 event that Michael Sowers was talking about here, we're going to talk about some things to watch in this iteration. Obviously, it was a U19 event before, then it turned into U20. 2 years later, it's now a U21 tournament, which creates some different situations for the players involved and all that. But I've got 5 things to watch here, Tom.
All right, tell me.
All right, I'm going to start. I'm going to start with number 5. We're going to start outside of Group A, and there are a bunch of teams across all different groups throughout the rest of this tournament that have guys that have played college lacrosse or are currently playing college lacrosse. Puerto Rico, Jamaica, Sweden, Poland all have guys that are current Division I players. We're going to hear from Brandon Aviles in Puerto Rico and Colin Baez from Puerto Rico here in a minute, Syracuse and Jacksonville respectively. Jonas Hunter is coming off a nice season at Vermont this past year in 2022. He's going to be, I think, an even bigger contributor for the Catamounts. He's having an opportunity to play for Sweden. Lucas Huckel, who plays at Lafayette, is getting ready to play for Poland. Dante Bowen from Jamaica plays at Ohio State. So you got teams, and there are even more guys who play Division II, Division III lacrosse. You got some MCLA guys worked in some of these rosters as well. So there's a lot of talent. I mean, I think it does show you the depth of talent across all different levels of college lacrosse, and I think it's going to be on display here. And some guys that, like we see at the senior level, like a guy who maybe in college lacrosse does one thing that on this international team, because of the roster they have, is going to be asked to do some other stuff. And I think that's cool.
Yeah, I do too. And you're looking at the guys on those teams, you know, the ones you're going to watch. I mean, it goes, obviously, as you mentioned, beyond just those teams in terms of teams with college talent on them. I actually had Dante Bowen on there as well. Really interesting. They have a guy, you know, Team USA head coach, Ohio State, Nick Myers. He's a guy that was going to have some intel, you know, just about what this process is all about, especially for a team at the top in Group A, and it's really going to help Team Jamaica, which is interesting. I go to Israel, another team just outside of Group A. They have some Tufts connections, which I think is interesting. And you, like you said, you have guys that are beyond Division I, Division II, and III, and you have Tufts, which is one of the best programs, period, in the country, right? Their goalie, Ben Friedman, the guy you're going to want to watch. The U20 national team goalie for Israel, played in the U20 Euros in Prague back in 2019. He was one of the best goalies at that point. So this is a big moment for Israel. It feels like they've had a lot of momentum, of course, hosting those men's senior world championships a few years ago. But it just feels like there's a big wave of momentum in Israel, the way the game's been growing there and getting themselves into prominence and being a name, really, in international lacrosse. So for them to help propel themselves maybe into that Group A, he's going to be a big part of that. So there's some Tufts connection, a couple different guys from Tufts playing for Israel, if you're a fan of that university, the Jumbos.
Well, and Israel has done the cool thing where in order to play for that team, you have to spend time in Israel helping coach the game. So it's not only is that national team being a part of, like, the outward display of, hey, this is what lacrosse is. It's actually getting into the grassroots and teaching the sport to younger kids. Same thing, I was talking with Jonas Hunter of Sweden as we get ready for this tournament, and his mom is from Sweden, so he spent a bunch of time in summers throughout his high school and college career going back to her homeland in Sweden. But he was saying, you know, like, I show up at the airport, and you have your lacrosse sticks, and people are asking, what are those?
Yeah.
And so they had a training camp leading up to this tournament in Sweden, and some of it was explaining to people you run into, like, this is what the sport is. And that's what a lot of this is all about, like continuing to grow the notoriety and people recognizing what lacrosse is across the globe.
You know, in some of my dives into some of this research, it's been really interesting to hear the testimonials from these athletes saying how they got into the game. And it shows you the importance of these different federations under the umbrella of World Lacrosse, which now we hear feels like all the time they're adding them in different countries. And in many cases, a lot of these young men and these young athletes said, yeah, I'd never heard of the game, and then, you know, this federation came to my school, you know, and they came to have a lacrosse day at school, and that's the first time they were introduced to the sport. And without that, you don't have just that simple introduction, that moment you said, oh, this is a little bit different than rugby or soccer or something else that you might play in that region, or ski, I guess, if you're in Sweden, right? Yeah. That's what they do there?
I think so, yeah.
But at the same time, it feels like that, to me, is a big part of that movement internationally, and that's, like you said, where things are growing. A lot of, we mentioned Israel a moment ago, a lot of these guys, they got to go play in that World Series of Youth Lacrosse in Denver, you know, when they were kids. So they were, you know, from an early age developing on in what the game was all about, instead of, you know, having some time and now they're 16, 17, oh, lacrosse is cool. They're starting young. And I think that is really where it begins and where you really grow the game.
Yeah, because, you know, like Japan, and we saw them have success at the World Games internationally at the senior level, but a lot of those athletes are athletes that were great in high school and other sports that picked up lacrosse like when they're in college or after.
Right.
And so you start that at a grassroots, and that's when the skill level develops along with your best athletes representing the country, and that's where you really get that culmination of everything coming together.
You know, and then as a, you know, here at LSN, we also do a lot of Japanese baseball on the for the fan side of things. And for that, to me, was one of the big things in terms of learning who from Japan is going to play lacrosse. Yeah. Because baseball in Japan's a big deal. Huge. I don't know if you know that or not, but it is. Those guys are absolute superstars there. It's like the NFL. So for athletes that are really talented to make that decision to play lacrosse, those stories really helping grow the game there.
For
As we've seen them be really successful. They had a really nice performance in the Women's World Championships, too, in Towson.
Yeah. Japan, I think, is one of the next countries up and coming.
And they're in Group B. They're Israel, Czech Republic, and Puerto Rico all in there as well.
Yeah, so that's going to be a fun group to keep your eye on. All right, let me go to number 4. My number 4 thing to watch in these U21 World Championships. Keep your eye on Colton Marquis from the Haudenosaunee team. He's a Hopkins commit. He's getting ready to go there. He grew up in Canada, went to Don Bosco Prep, a great high school in New Jersey to play his high school lacrosse. They had a huge year this past year. High expectations for him going to Hopkins. He's been playing Junior A up in summer box for the Orangeville Northmen in Canada. They've had a terrific summer so far. So Colton Marquis, a name along with that Haudenosaunee team has a bunch of guys who currently play for Vermont, Albany. They've got some talent in there. But Colton Marquis, I think, may be one of the names that maybe emerges in this tournament that is going to be a household name for years to come in college.
Yeah, and we saw that run a few years ago. In you might could tie it to 2016 around Dahoga Nanticoke.
Yes.
And this is where he really started to make his name known, and then he would do it in the indoor championships as well with Team Iroquois, of course. But this is, like you said, where a lot of that begins. And a competition like this, of course, it was a little younger back then for Dahoga.
Yeah.
And then, of course, went on to Albany and that great freshman year and all of that. And so, to me, and obviously Nanticoke now with the Buffalo Bandits, you have these opportunities for these players that have already had a lot of pro-like experience, right? You kind of get that with the junior box leagues and what have you, that some of these Haudenosaunee players, Canadian players play, and you kind of get that feel, and you get a lot of reps that way too. And that's where you see these teams be able to click really quickly. And Marquis, a guy that does that. A couple of guys on this Haudenosaunee team I also wanted to point out. Trey Deere, a Syracuse commit, plays right now at the Salisbury School in Connecticut. He will kind of be in that tandem with Marquis for this this Nationals team. Jacob the long stick midi from Albany. Yeah. He had 77 ground balls and 27 caused turnovers.
He was great.
As a poll this year at Albany. So they've got some really, not veteran-style talent, but experienced talent. That's what you're going to see running through these games.
Well, I think that's the exciting part about a guy like Marquis, because you're right. Years past, this has been like freshmen in college, current high school seniors. That's the type of guys you're getting. Now you're getting guys that are third and fourth year players in college. So to see a player like a Marquis now go up against guys who have had 2-3 years college experience, how he does, I think will tell you a lot about how things are going to go once he gets on the field at Hopkins.
One more point about the Nationals.
Yeah.
Remember the name Triton Benedict. He played for Salmon River for a couple years and they did an interview with him with one of the local papers. One of his favorite memories was, quote, laying bodies. That's the kind of guy you want on your back end, right? That guy, he's ready to go. You better watch out.
Lumber, yeah.
Triton Benedict.
Don't go half-hearted at him. He will lay you out.
He will. So get physical.
Keep your eye on that.
Tomorrow morning, you'll see him play on LSN.
Yeah, there you go. 8 a.m. Eastern?
Yes.
All right. Keep your eye on Lax Sports Network for that. That's Wednesday morning, depending on when you're listening or watching this. My number three thing to look out for in these U21 World Championships. I'm going to go to Group A here with Canada. Thomas McConvey, who has had a nice career at Vermont, transferring to Virginia as a grad student this year. I'm interested to watch him throughout this tournament because, look, we've seen him at Vermont. But watching him go up against Team USA and playing with guys like Owen Hiltz and company on this very talented Canadian roster, I think could be a little eye into the future of what we could see this year for Virginia. Because look at what we've seen from Virginia the last couple of years. They've had a couple of these transfers that maybe aren't coming in and being the number one option, but they're like 3 or 4 on this offense, and it makes a huge difference for Virginia. So I'm going to be interested to see how he does in this tournament, and I'm sure Lars Tiffany will be watching.
Timing a little different here, but almost something you could compare to Aurora Accordingly when she, transferred to Maryland, but also playing for Team Canada in that process. Had played for them prior to the Maryland season in the Fall Classic, of course, with Team Canada, and kind of was able to get her feet wet at that senior national team level, parlayed that into an incredible season. So you see what's going to happen here with McConvey and getting an opportunity to now compete at this level on this kind of a team with this talent. And he can now go and dip his toes into Virginia and be like, okay, I know what this kind of atmosphere is all about, at the end of the day, what this kind of competition feels like with this kind of talent around me, which I think is going to be really beneficial. Another guy in that same kind of light, and of course with Asher Nolting moving on from High Point, who's going to be the guy? Watch out for Team England's Dan Jones, not the quarterback from Duke and
Daniel Jones
plays for the Giants. Dan Jones, really talented player. He goes to High Point. He was the U20 Euro tournament MVP in 2019. So he scored the most goals at the Euros a couple of seasons ago at this level. Look for him again in this Group A for Team England to maybe make some noise and help, get that next step towards his collegiate career at High Point. They're going to be playing big games, of course, in February and March out of conference, and now with their new conference and Asher Nolting era is over. Who's going to be the guy to step in? Maybe it will be this guy.
Yeah, I mean, that big gap to try to fill the shoes of Asher Nolting. So, yeah, probably going to need to be a bunch of guys.
Yeah,
but
well, it's going to be a group effort, I'm sure.
For sure. All right, number 2, another individual for Canada, and that's Owen Hiltz. I'm really interested to see after he was injured all of last season, and it seemed like maybe if Syracuse was in the mix for a postseason tournament, maybe he comes back, but he stays out all of last year, redshirts the season. How he plays in this tournament is going to be really interesting to me because he seems like what we saw toward the end of that 2021 season, it felt like he could be a difference maker for Syracuse, and it felt like that going into last year, and I think that was a huge loss for him. Not saying that he's like a 5-win difference player, but maybe 2-3 wins for Syracuse a year ago, and then their season's a little bit different than how it turned out. So how he plays, especially with all the talk about this recruiting class coming in for Syracuse, Joey Spallina is about to step on campus, wearing number 22. So, this Syracuse team, it seems like, is rejuvenated. Owen Hiltz is going to be a big reason why, if they have success, I think it's going to be on his shoulders offensively. So I'm very interested to see, after a year away, what he looks like this summer.
Yeah, and who he's going to be playing alongside. You just mentioned McConvey, and don't forget Ross Scott is on this team too.
Yeah.
And Ross Scott just had an outstanding year for Rutgers, and a guy that has maybe some of that alpha mentality, right? I mean, you talked that he was going to be the guy for Rutgers. He is the guy for Rutgers.
He is the guy for Rutgers. I mean, he was last year.
The guy for a huge. I mean, Rutgers had a better season than Syracuse.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's another aspect of this. How is Owen Hiltz going to, assimilate with some of these other talented players? Of course, he did that. He's done it at a high level at Syracuse. I have no doubt he will. But it's going to be interesting to see as you then think about what is next for him and going back to Syracuse healthy with some of these new players and looking at him alongside a guy like a Ross Scott and how that's all going to work.
Well, and you know what? I think you were talking about Aurora accordingly and kind of the reverse of what we saw happen with her. I do think that having a lot of success at this level in this tournament can build momentum and confidence entering another season. Aurora accordingly had an unbelievable World Championships this summer, and it's hard to imagine she does that and has the confidence to do that if she didn't have the year she did at Maryland, where she's a Tewaaraton finalist and regarded as one of the best players in the country. And I do think kind of the reverse could happen here with players like a Hills, a Scott, guys that you go and show out in this tournament, and you have a terrific tournament. That only builds your confidence heading into the fall when you go back to campus and you go, all right, I did it against some of the best players at my age group in the world. I'm going to go back on campus, and I got this.
Yeah, and this roster for these teams is fascinating too. And be able to go to college and perform at a level where you're able to stay on the roster, right?
Yeah.
Because some young guys that have aged up, some guys, of course, have aged out at the same time. So that roster spot, as time goes, you never really know. So for some of these guys that have gone to college and performed, that to me had a lot on the line here too.
For sure,
yeah. Because if you go to college and you're against some of this top talent and you don't get the job done, then all of a sudden someone else is coming along. So some of these guys we talked about have done that in college to cement themselves. Now it's time to take advantage of that opportunity.
Which brings me to my number one thing I'm most interested to see, because you mentioned about that, and Team USA has been one of those teams. We've seen guys that through the first couple of years of college, and they've had that experience. Nick Myers has said, you've played your way onto this team, and guys that maybe didn't make that initial cut have played their way into this situation to represent Team USA. But I'm really interested to see, how does the United States handle the pressure? And I have all the confidence in the world. If you've ever spoken to Nick Myers, they are taking this one play, one day at a time. He is the definition of coach speak, and he will have the team thinking that way throughout this entire tournament. But we saw this Team USA has never lost a gold medal game in this event. They are 8 for 8 in the U19, now U21 version of the World Championships on the men's side. That's pressure. You don't think, you saw what happened with Canada in the World Games. They wanted to take it to Team USA. You don't think Canada wants to go out there and find a way to win one and say, hey, you know what, this is ours. We did that in the World Games. It's our time now. And I think that is going to be the biggest thing the United States is going to have to handle because they've got all the talent in the world. You got Brendan O'Neill and Pat Cavanaugh, who have to be two of the front runners for the Tewaaraton Award going into this next season. C.J. Kirst joins his brother Cole after just making a run to the Final Four with Cornell, as did Alex Slusher and Shane Knobloch. They both just played in the championship weekend. Liam Entenmann, who came in, and I think he was still in high school when this process started.
Yeah.
He's now a two-time All-American goalie out of Notre Dame. Graham Bundy was one of the best players on a top-5 Georgetown team this year. So they've got star power galore. But figuring out how that all works together in a situation where these guys have performed at the college level, now it's a little bit different than before, because before it was like freshmen and high school seniors, so they haven't done it at this level. So there's maybe a little different feel. Like all these guys have done it at the college level already. So how do they mix together and make a team that then is going to win a championship with the pressure of having never lost in this event before? I'm fascinated to see how that all works.
Yeah, and you brought up the World Games there. I think that was something that's really interesting behind all of this. And it showed, I think, them and people watching that you can't take anybody lightly. You know, even if you have experience winning in these games, Team Canada took it to the U.S., both the men and the women, right at the end of the day. So I think that might have maybe been the wake-up call and saying, hey, you know, at the end of the day, we can't take this no matter what their roster looks like, no matter what we think of ourselves. This game, you know, they can beat us. And I think if that little bit, that little nugget can help motivate them to really put people away, that's an important aspect of the pressure that they're going to be feeling when they begin this tournament and continue on through. And like you said, it's all of those expectations that have come before them, right? That all the successes that they've had in the past. And then you wonder, too, how this delay, how these other countries in aging up and some guys aging out, or some of these younger players, and the way that the time, I know, of course, the U.S. has gotten that as well, but some of the time that these countries have needed to develop talent, just mentioned that with Israel, and how they've been working to do that these last couple of years. Well, they all just got 2 more years to do that. 2 more years for 15, 16-year-olds to turn 17, 18, and vice versa, and as you continue and on and so forth, to get into this age group. So the competition, where is that around them, too, I feel like is really interesting at the end of the day. Did some of these guys that we just pointed out in Group A that have grown in college to become somewhat stars, or at least valuable members, and got more of a structure in their life and their game, how will that help them compete against the best? And how does the rest of the pack, how do they be able to rise to this occasion against a Team USA team who also have had that opportunity, but they've had a little bit more time to also grow, too?
The delays of this tournament has given this tournament more known stars than we've ever seen at this before. Because before it was like, all right, maybe you had some guys who had a breakout freshman year, or there were high school guys that were top 5 recruits that you were expecting to be great. We know some of these guys are already great at the college level. I wonder how Nick Myers and this coaching staff handles that, and how that affects how the players go into it, because it's a different game than college. The rules are different. It's even different than, I mean, the 15-minute quarters compared to the 20 they played back in 2016. When I was talking to Nick Myers leading up to this tournament, he's like, we probably don't win if it was timed like the way it's timed now. And they've cut the game down. It's still running time. There's no shot clock. Canada was up 6-0 in that gold medal game 6 years ago. It was a dogfight. Team USA probably shouldn't have won in some ways. Like they got lucky, and they found a way to make a couple of plays that changed that game, and came away with a Ryan Conrad ended up scoring the game winner. You know, like the back of all the Canadians' heads, you don't think they're probably watching that game? These guys were younger when they saw. You don't think their coaching staff's making them watch that game? They're going to be ready to go. So I am really intrigued how Team USA handles all the pressure and all the notoriety, because all eyes are on them from the second they have got down and got there in Ireland. And it's going to be fascinating to watch, see if they can bring home gold for a 9th consecutive tournament. Yeah,
and you wonder, you know, teams like Canada and Haudenosaunee have all this box background, and you look at the success of the sixes that everybody had against Team USA. Not everybody, but you know, for better or for worse, how that will impact things. Maybe they try to bend some of their philosophies to implement even more of that, and say, well, this seems to be something that the U.S. isn't the best in, you know, and they've been maybe speed things up a little bit, make things get a little bit more frazzled, because that's what it felt like. So I think also that could be an aspect here for what they do well compared to what the U.S. does well. And maybe that clash in styles can help some of these other teams have a little more success than they have in the past, because it's been proven at some different iterations of the sport, but also you can bring that in even more so than they have before.
Also, remember, don't buy in too much to what happens in the opening game between the United States and Canada, because as we've seen at the men's senior level, sometimes that game doesn't matter because somebody comes back with a very different game plan when they play in the medal round.
That's
so
true. Yes.
We will watch that game Wednesday morning and then hope that we see it again sometime in the medal round, because it should be a great matchup.
And one more thing before we move on here. Just want to talk about Ireland, Israel. We talked about Israel at the top. Israel outside looking into Group A last time around. They lost with an opportunity to be the 5th team in the Group A last time, to England, I think it was. And Ireland finished in 7th in 2016. Hosting this tournament, this is going to be a very inspired group. So keep an eye out for some of those Group B and C teams. Yeah. Ireland's a C team and Israel is a B team. But Ireland, I think, is going to be very motivated and would love to give themselves an opportunity to get themselves into that next level, as they've been trying to do over the last few years, and we'll see if they can do that as well.
Well, we will hear from Ireland head coach Tom Pryor here in a second, but first we'll start with a team in Group B. That is Puerto Rico. I had a chance to catch up with a couple of their players leading into this World Championship event. So we are now joined by Puerto Rico's Brandon Aviles and Colin Baez, who are getting ready to compete in these U21 World Championships in Ireland. Guys, I know you're just getting settled in there as we're talking just before the tournament. What's the feel? I'll start with you, Brandon. What's the feel around this team, and as you guys have gotten together, getting ready to tackle this thing?
It's been awesome. A lot of great guys, and I think the most important thing is everyone's super excited, especially to fly across the globe to be in Ireland to play. And not only that, like we went to Puerto Rico, we practiced there, and we did a tournament too. So just now being halfway across the globe with all the guys, it's pretty awesome. And it's a great group of guys. That's all I can really say. It's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I'll piggyback off that. I mean, the connection we've already made off like not too long being together. I mean, these guys are awesome. I mean, we're playing for our island, and like there's nothing better that you could do over the summer,
Yeah, Colin, I'll follow that up. Like, what does it mean to represent Puerto Rico in this tournament for you?
I mean, it's huge. I mean, my dad was born in Puerto Rico, and his parents passed away. But if they were still alive, I mean, like all of the other parents on the team and their grandparents, like that are here, just going crazy. It's such a big thing to be able to represent something that not a lot of guys can,
Yeah, Brandon, for you, what's it mean for you?
Kind of like Colin said, it's way bigger than any of us, and it means a lot to our heritage. And both my grandparents were born in Puerto Rico and immigrated here, so it's just absolutely unbelievable. I never would have thought when I was a kid that I'd get this experience. It's pretty awesome.
So, Brandon, I'll start with you here in terms of on the field. Many people know you as a short stick defensive midfielder at Syracuse, but I've seen the highlights from high school. Like, I know you can fill it up. What do you feel like your role is on this team?
I mean, honestly, just, doing the dirty work. I would say I'm a pretty gritty guy. So if they need me on defense, put my defense, obviously, in offense, I'll do it. Even face-offs, like, all good to call them, but I'll do it all. So, so it's been, it's been good for me. And, for me, like, personally, it's nothing new, just doing everything. And that's really, what it comes down to.
That's a coach's dream right there. He's ready to do it all. It's sign Brandon up. Colin, for you at the face-off X, obviously you had a little bit of experience your freshman year here at Jacksonville. What do you hope to learn from this experience and hope to build off of?
I mean, the whole point of this tournament is just to go the game. But I mean, I feel like it's just keeping my stick hot and being able to just go right back to Jacksonville the day I get back and, have the experience of playing against guys that, I might never play against. I mean, just gives me a lot of different looks, and I think it'll definitely get me ready for Jacksonville.
Colin, for you, what did you learn your freshman year there? Obviously, a year for that Dolphins program that is one of the best in the program's history. What was that like to be a part of?
I mean, it was just electric all the time. I mean, every day practice, it was just hooting and hollering. It was great. I mean, there's nothing. I've never been on a team of people that just wanted it so bad, especially just being the underdog and people just always claiming our wins were flukes. And, we just kept coming back and kept, busting our butts every day. And I mean, it showed. And this year I'm really excited because I think we've picked up even more guys, and it's a big year for us. I mean, it's time to show out.
Brandon, you aren't the only Syracuse guy over there. I know Owen Hiltz is playing for Canada. There may be a couple of others. Like, do you keep tabs with Owen? You had a chance to see him yet? Like, how are you going to be watching the rest of this tournament?
Oh, absolutely. I see him on the walk. It's pretty small world here. You can't miss anyone. I guess I'll shout out to Cole Curse. Got to meet him. He's transferring from Lehigh, so
nice.
Really nice guy, and also the captain of USA. So excited to get him, and just always seeing those guys. Like, we live like literally a couple doorsteps down from each other, so we're always seeing each other, whether going to get lunch, dinner, whatever it is, and always talking. So it's awesome.
So you guys in this group have Israel, Japan, and the Czech Republic, all teams that maybe have some different styles. I think it's going to be interesting to watch your group play out. What have you figured out or trying to learn about any of the teams you're going to be playing here in group play?
I mean, I think the biggest thing is just, don't take any of these teams for granted. Like, it's not like we have film on every single team we're going to be able to play and, sit down and break them down. But I mean, I think the biggest thing with this tournament is like, you don't know who's who. So you can't take anybody for granted. So, I mean, even if it's a country that you've never heard them play lacrosse before, you never know. They could come out of nowhere and smoke you. So, I mean, that's just my opinion on it.
Brandon, I was doing some research, and your cousin Joe Scally plays on the U.S. men's national team, right, for soccer?
Yeah, he's also in Germany right now, in Russia. So
yeah, what has he told you about like the opportunity to play in an international type event? I don't know if you've picked his brain or like what that experience is like for him.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's pretty surreal, and that's like every time we get to talk and I see him. That's the first thing comes out of his mouth. He's like, it's super surreal, and you just have to soak it in and just, don't let that kind of scare you, and just buckle down and just be the player you are. And yeah, it's definitely been pretty cool to have the opportunity for, some of my family to play, and especially the Bundesliga, let alone the U.S. national team at 19. So kudos to him, pretty happy. And yeah, that's pretty tough to do. So definitely awesome having that connection for sure.
Yeah, that's a heck of an athletic family you've got. Who's the best athlete? Is it him? Is it you? Like, who's got the bragging rights?
Oh, God. I don't know. That's tough. I mean, you put me in a pickle.
Take the crown.
I'll take the crown for now. I actually played some goalie. My aunt got me into it, and honestly, he got me there. He would always just rip on me, and I started late in 10th grade, and it just wasn't for me, soccer. So, I mean, thinking about that, he's got me in soccer and lacrosse. He tried it for a little bit, wasn't for him. But so, honestly, we both got each other. I'm not going to take the crown. We'll split it. That's possible.
That's fair enough. You're both playing on the international stage. It's good. You're good at your respective sports. I'll leave you guys with this. What's the expectations? Like, what is the team talking about before you guys start the tournament? Like, what will you guys consider a success when you leave Ireland?
For us, it's like basics, like control the controllables. And I think the biggest thing that most teams always say, but for some reason it's difficult, is just communication. If we're all just talking to one another, it's kind of funny. Like when you're playing on the field, you're not thinking about it, but just the smallest voice or even the loudest voice, like the littlest things matter. And that's like the biggest thing for us, is communicating defensively and even offensively, and make sure everyone's on the same page.
I think for me personally, I mean, everyone wants to win gold, right? I mean, like I want to take home the championship, right? But I mean, it's our first year together as a U21 program. I would just love to see us just ball out and just put a run into this tournament. And, no one thinks there's a lot of doubts for our team. And I think we have a lot of talent, and I just want to go out there and just put a dent in this tournament.
Well, we're excited to see you guys compete. Brandon, Colin, good luck. Enjoy this experience, because it's a once-in-a-lifetime type deal. We'll be watching you guys over in Ireland. Good luck, and we'll talk again sometime down the road.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So as we look ahead to these U21 World Championships in Ireland coming up in August, we've got Ireland head coach Tom Pryor joining us now. Tom, this has been a long time coming for this tournament and obviously for this team. What's the excitement level as you're just a couple of weeks out from having a chance to take a team there to Ireland and perform as the host country?
It's a tremendous amount of excitement. There's also I was part of the program in 2003 when we first competed in Australia. and now we finally have an opportunity to host it. You know, it'd be remiss if I didn't mention guys who were influential, who got us to this point. You know, Richie Moran and Jimmy Carroll. This is a vision that those guys had, and you know, now we're 20 over 20 years later, and now we have an opportunity to host an event. And you know, I know Mike Kennedy is, you know, he's our CEO. I know he's running around like a chicken without a head right now, trying to make sure, you know, he's covered all the bases. And you know, thank God the lacrosse community is they're a very close knit group. They're fraternal still, and you know, I know Mike's going to get a lot of support. But you know, it's very exciting as I was a former player as well, and you know, now to be able to host these games and see how, you know, how other countries have been so inviting to us, and now we have an opportunity to invite other countries. I think it's awesome. It's great for the sport. Ireland needs it to expand lacrosse, and obviously, you know, we need it as an affirmation of our program.
Yeah, but what does make it? You touched on that a little bit more. What does make hosting so special?
Well, I think hosting so special is like, you know, having grown as an organization, and then, you know, to be able to host, you know, have World Lacrosse, you know, behind us, and allow us to host it, allows us to really expose the game of lacrosse, you know, not only to the other countries that are visiting, but also to Ireland itself. We need to grow the sport there, and you know, it's great that Ireland's going to have lacrosse in their own backyard right now. They're going to see a high level of play, and they're going to see the multitude of countries that are playing in it, and they'll see the fraternity behind it. It's not only great for the growth of lacrosse, but it's also great for growth of lacrosse in Europe. And after COVID, you know, everyone's had loss in COVID, and you know, it's kind of like a deeper meaning. You know, like, guys, this has been trying to be planned for a couple of years now. We had canceled twice, and now we get a chance to go. So like, it's going to be a great thing to see the whole world of lacrosse, you know, beat in one area, just like the women's game did, and a chance to, you know, expose that sport and show the sport, and then also a chance, you know, to get out of COVID. It gives us a victory, you know, a victory in itself, victory for all the countries involved as well. And you know, we hope, you know, we as a Team Ireland, we put our best foot forward, and we play with some grit, you know, we play with some passion, and we play smart lacrosse.
So let's talk about that team on the field. I know you were the coach in the Czech Republic when this team competed in the U20 European Championships back in 2019. And I know you said that part of that group is back together to help kind of form a nucleus of this year's group. That was a team that you took to the semifinals of those European championships. How do you look to build off of that performance from a couple of years ago?
Well, you know, it's funny you say that, because like the last taste in those guys' mouth, you know, I think was our, you know, we ended up losing to England in a close game at the end. And, you know, England left it on the field just like we did, and you know, the guys played their tails off just like our team did, and you know, they won the game by a goal, but in our mouth and in our play, it was a tough pill to swallow, because like we played better than them in the second half of the game. They played better than us in the first half of the game. And it was a bitter pill to swallow, because we lost right at the end of the game, and a lot of guys are left from that team. And our goalie's back. You know what I mean? There's a Brody Moore, and we have some guys on defense that are back. So that you know, that sentiment is still in our guys' mouths. They're just still hungry from that game. You know, and not that they're against England being hungry, but like that was a bitter pill to swallow that day, and they're hungry now. They get it. You know, like, they get the calamity of that type of event, and they understand the you know, the immediacy of being, you know, being able to play, you know, and make good decisions, and you know, be the best version of yourself in those moments. And you know, hopefully we learn from that. You know, and that was that's, you know, bitter pill is swallowed, but hopefully we learn from that moving forward and playing now. And you know, we got some new guys added in there. And we lost some good guys, but we've also replaced some guys. So it's going to be an interesting situation for us right now. So, but it's just like that for the other teams as well. And we had a good run, like you said, in the Czech Republic there. And you know, the Czech Republic did an awesome job hosting us. You know, and we want to share that back with them. And that was a great situation for us. And hopefully it's part of the building blocks for us right now.
People might look at this, this tournament and say, oh, they've got a couple more years to get ready and get the guys playing together. We were just talking off camera about the fact that that's not the case at all, that for a lot of these groups and teams, because of player turnover or guys aging out, everyone's got to get acclimated pretty quickly here. How much is that a challenge for you guys?
It's interesting. And what's more interesting about it it seems like such a hurdle, but I think because of, missing, time with COVID situation affecting us, then being postponed, I think it's made for coach forced. It's really, provided a vantage point for, like I said, where coaches now have to talk to each other and engage each other more and communicate more to get things done now. It's actually, I think it's, even though it's a difficult, there's been some frustrations behind it. Now I think there's more adaptability with people and with coaches. And like I said, I just gotten off the phone with Brendan Mullen, the China coach. We had a great talk. Coach shared a lot of the things that same battles and hurdles that they had to climb, or we have to climb as well. And I think it's actually guys are doing, coaches are doing the right thing and trying to get, the best version of their team they can, and get them the most amount of experiences they can up until the games, so they're ready.
So we were talking about this a little bit before, but in getting your team ready, you head over and you get the team all together for training camp early August. But it won't be just your team. You're scrimmaging against some other teams that'll be competing in this tournament leading up. Walk people through what that kind of build-up process will be like for this team as you get ready for these World Championships.
Well, when we first get there, when we first arrive, it's got to be more about us and working on what we have to work on. We've been, the last time I've seen the guys was in June. We were able to do a tryout situation, but I didn't have the whole team. So now it's going to be an opportunity for us to gel the whole team. So the first day or two, we live on Saturday and Sunday, it's going to be about, working on us. Then we're going to go right into some scrimmage situation because, we open up with Germany the first game. Germany's good, man. They're going to be ready. They're well coached. They got a strong team. They got great athletes there, and they got tough kids. So we're up against the battle where we got to be ready to go right away. And Germany's going to be a good test. They're good. They're a good team. And like I said, they're going to be ready to go too. And building up into that, we have to be ready to play them. And that's going to be a good competitive situation for us to start the games off.
I'm just curious. Obviously, the last time this was played was 2016. Feels like a very long time ago. And I'm just curious, from your perspective, how has lacrosse internationally maybe changed since then? 6 years ago, what do you think has changed the most?
I think what's really, the game does. I wouldn't say the game has really evolved in such a big way. Like, the strategies remain the same. The matchups, it's all about matchups. I think the biggest thing off the field for us, I've seen this year better than any other build up to previous World Games, is the level of communication between the coaches. I think it's been circumstantial, and I think guys understand. The other coaches we're coaching against, they understand the need to have exposure and play and provide the best scenarios for your team to be in terms of competition and preparing for the games. Previous to this, we took things for granted. You roll into practice, you go play. You go to camp for 4 or 5 days and rock and roll. You go in and play. Now all this stuff with COVID, guys got to reaffirm with each other, hey, we're good to go. We'll go at this time. And because we're, what's interesting, different prior to other games, is many of the teams, like we're practicing at UCD and having our camp there. There's other countries that are going to be there, which is interesting because other countries will be doing their camps. So it's pretty cool because you're going to be provided a situation where you can compete against other teams that I think before COVID, because of the travel concerns with COVID, it's all. I think it's going to help. It's going to help us have a good kind of a preseason or a build up into the games, and we'll have a sense of community, amongst the teams before we even get to Limerick, which I think is interesting,
Can you sneak in any scouting, when you're doing that? Is that fair?
It's funny. It's funny you say that. You kind of don't want to, you don't want to bang, you guys know, you don't want to bang heads with the teams you're going to be in your pool.
Yeah.
Yeah. You hope the guys you're playing with will sell you out. So, but I think at the same time, those, there's a sense of innocence because everyone was subject to the same separation, so like there is a sense of innocence behind it that, that's respected, like I think the Jack coach, which I long talk, he's like, Tom, we had to revamp our whole team. I'm like, dude, we had to do the same thing. We did it in June. I go, and kids call me up and say, Coach, I got an internship. I can't be there. I'm sorry. I'm like, listen, I can't, negotiate with a kid that wants to do something to better his career or life. I'm like, you got to do what you got to do, buddy. We're going to miss you, but we'll be thinking about you, and I know you'll be backing us. So, but those other countries ran into the same conflict. So, there is a sense of innocence behind it. That kind of, I think, makes it kind of an even playing field.
Yeah, and it's going to be really interesting to see how it all plays out. You look back at 2016, you guys had a really impressive finish, 7th place. What are the expectations? Do you set them going in? Like, how do you kind of talk to the team about that?
No, I don't. I think what you don't want to set the expectations obviously are, you want to get in the gold medal game. That's your expectations, right? That's everyone's expectations. But I really think what you have to do, you have to work, you have to play in the now, and I think you have to work on getting better as a team each time you touch the field, And off the field, you got to work on supporting your teammates. Like, the close team sometimes in these events, and you guys know that sometimes the best team doesn't win. Sometimes the closer team wins, and the day-to-day battles and doing the right thing off the field, following your curfews, coming into camp in shape, playing with grit. These are the things we're going to, these guys know that their expectation is going to be high, just like the other countries, their expectations high. They're not going there, they're not going there to settle for something less. My goal is I want our team just to play. I want our team to play with grit. I want them to play blue collar. I don't want them to play smart lacrosse, and I want them to love each other when they're playing. That's the key to success. And that doesn't change whether you're playing football, lacrosse, soccer, it doesn't matter. You want your guys to stick, you want your guys, back each other and play tough and play hard. Remember, they're representing Ireland. So it's a great country with people with a lot of grit. You're representing that country. You represent it, you go out there and you play.
And you get to do it on home soil, which I know you're excited about. We're excited about it, too. It all starts on August 10th. Tom Pryor, the head coach of Ireland men's lacrosse, the U19 team, U21 team now.
There you go.
We appreciate you joining us here once again. And safe travels and good luck over the course of the next few weeks here, all right?
Hey, guys, thank you for your time interviewing today. And thank you, Allison, for covering lacrosse and for what you guys do for lacrosse and your exposure. And thanks for growing a game that we all love.
Thanks, Tom.
Okay, guys. Yep.
And Travis, I remember standing in Tir na nog in Philadelphia when we announced
Great Irish pub
the press conference that Ireland was going to host this. And that was a long time ago now.
Was that 2015?
That was the 2019 LaxCon week in
2019?
Philadelphia. And we thought it was going to be the summer of 2020. And then we thought it was going to be summer of 2021. They're doing it. Summer of 2022. And it's going to be a very different tournament, but the biggest, the 23 teams involved from all over the world, they're in Limerick right now. And I think that's what it's all about. That's what sports all. It's really cool to see all these different people and hear about these guys, you talk to these guys. They're excited just to meet guys from different parts of the world who play the same game.
And I'm so happy for people like Michael Kennedy from Ireland Lacrosse who have put so much into getting this event to be hosted by Ireland and everything they've done to make sure that everything in Ireland is ready. I am so happy for them that they finally get a chance to host it because they have put so much sweat, blood, tears, money into hosting this event. And so getting a chance to finally see it happen is going to mean a lot.
For them, it means so much. You can just feel it, the amount of passion they have for the sport and to grow the sport where they live and around the world too. It's infectious to be a part of that.
It is. And hopefully by the end of all this, Michael Kennedy can sit down in a nice corner pub and enjoy a nice cold Guinness. He will deserve it by the end of all of it.
Yes, he will. That's very true. And make sure to watch with us for the next 10, 11 days, whatever it is. We'll have games on every single day on Lax Sports Network. So make sure to tune in pretty much from the morning until later on in the afternoon and the evening. We'll make sure we get you everything you need to know and all the different teams from around the world to get to watch lacrosse and not turn the channel for the next 2 weeks, which is a good thing to have.
LaxSN.com, the spot. You can also go to our social media, a bunch of other ways you can watch it, different digital channel subscriptions and other ways you can watch on your smart TVs and stuff. So make sure you check out Lax Sports Network, LaxSN.com, and also Lax Sports Net on Twitter and Instagram to figure out all the different ways you can watch. Enjoy Tom calling the games. I will be as well. Enjoying Tom calling the games, that is.
Thanks, Travis.
And that's all we got. So for Tom, I'm Travis. We'll see you.